Our second best of 3 of the day. In the bottom left-hand corner, the blue Zerg to start us off is none other than the second Zerg from Basilisk that we'll see on stream today. It is Serral.
And for more than a million years in mouse sports, it is Big Gabriel, HeRoMaRinE. He founded mouse sports at this point.
He founded mouse sports. He's actually been in there so long, and they start to expand backwards as time being there as well. So, yeah.
What a magical matchup here. Honored as Cardi Z to bring you this.
I forgot about Cardi Z, man.
Yeah, me too. I saw it in the chat. I was like, oh, I was so happy.
The best outro we've ever had on the ESL StarCraft 2 channel of all time.
I would agree. CC first. Big Gabriel. All right. Let's see a little bit of a new Vogue here.
Yeah, man. CC first. The Terrans have all been sitting on this. Suddenly it gets to these big kind of get into the playoff matches, and they're like, you know what? You guys aren't going to do anything wild. We're just going to CC first, get a good economy, and work from there, which is pretty fun.
Pretty fun indeed. And Serral maybe less likely to punish in the way that Raynor would, with that Ling Bane type aggression. So I quite like this.
Yep, as that Overlord is just making its way around. It'll be fun to see what Serral is bringing to the table as well. He really has been so good lately. He's been he's been a really awesome player to watch. I feel like he's had his blips, but mostly in ZVZ, and every other matchup he's been amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, his CVC win rate is still like close to 80%, 70-something%. And he only plays the highest caliber players, so it's not like he's a slouch in that regard. But yeah, like Solar can give him a little of trouble here and there, and Raynor always a little bit of a thorn on his side. But yeah, completely agreed. I mean, in this matchup, he's just untouchable, it feels like.
Yep, absolutely. It'll be, like I say, interesting to see what HeRoMaRinE's plan is, and apparently, it's the most mega economy build you've ever seen. 3 CCs, not a single gas in sight. Cats, we are coming in meaning some business right now.
We really are. I don't even know what this shapes up to be. I mean, you got to take a gas at some point, maybe triple racks. What, do you hit like a combat shield timing? I imagine you just have to be defensive, right? So, very, very, very nice opening from Big Gabe here. Just basically gambling pretty hard.
Yep. Gambling away, but I mean, sometimes when you play against Serral, you gotta kind of gamble, right? As now he takes double gas alongside double racks, so going to turn into 3 racks, and then maybe just have mega economy into like mega Terran bio pressure. That kind of combination could be kind of cool. And Serral's Overlord gets punched back. He did see the timing of the CC though, so Serral is aware of what Gabe is doing, and that means obviously Serral can then react.
Yeah, his reaction is going to be to add an extra 6 drones, so maybe a very fast 4th or something of the likes. I mean, he shouldn't be under any sort of pressure in the near vicinity of time, so I would not mind a 4th from the GOAT here.
No, absolutely not. As that bunker comes up, Tech Lab's on the way, a couple of Marines and a few SCVs coming out. A single Zergling of Serral. That's all the way up to the top side. The Overlord turning back around on the right. Couple of Queens on the way through. Serral just going to pump Queens and drones. He knows he's not under no pressure for the next at least minute or so, right? And so he is just going to hold down that drone button, get a great economy setup, to match that of his opponents. And HeRoMaRinE is indeed just going to drop down an engineering bay, continue through 3 racks for the moment. There's a factory, and Serral's even going to go roaches to follow up from here.
Yeah, and that's amazing actually against the type of attack that Big Gabe can be planning, because with links, you are actually going to bleed a lot of those links against a stim timing if Gabe wanted to go for it. And I feel like Gabe could kind of go for it because he hasn't added reactors to his barracks yet, right? So either he feels like, okay, I gambled a little bit too much and you could attack me with something like what Raynor did with Ling Bane and is trying to account for that by delaying those reactors, or he is looking potentially at a stim timing of some kind. So yeah, roaches are going to be ideal in that sort of scenario in the early game.
Yeah, just something sturdy that can hold its own. Great route to be playing into as 7 additional drones come up. Serral's still greeding it, right? Just drones, drones, drones. 4 lings on the map, nothing else. Flare on the way, extra gases. Getting to the point soon, though, with stim finishing. Starboard on the way. We've got to begin getting those roaches out shortly. Otherwise, Serral will be caught underprepared and may end up in some trouble.
Yeah, but it's the links that are going to give him the heads up. Very smartly, Big Game only shows 4 Marines at the front. So that link perimeter that Serral had set up, that's, I think, the trigger that he was looking to exploit. So if those get killed, if he sees a massive army moving out and you see the links now repositioning to make sure that that's not happening on the right-hand side of the map, exactly where Big Gabe would be had he killed that link and continued on his path forward, then he would start producing more roaches. At the moment, just making the 3, and he really doesn't need any more. So perfect reads from Serral here.
Yeah, he just sees everything, man. Gabe isn't going to do anything to surprise him unless he takes the most long roundabout route, which by then Serral's probably going to be done droning anyway, so absolutely feels as though Serral is just responding well. Again, up to a good drone count himself, matching the economy that Gabe has tried to put out early in this game. And yeah, just now the roaches start to produce, missile upgrades are coming by, and Gabe is still only on that single engineering bay. You know, we have ourselves now barracks number 6, 7, and 8 coming up. This is really going to start hitting hard in the next few moment, cats. We're going to start going, and once this attack starts, it should never stop unless the game's ending.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see the path that Gabe wants to take as well, probably through his 3rd, as he's walling off his natural main base at a very massive supply depot wall that is kind of unheard of. It at least I don't see it very often at all. So very cool from him here, as yeah, he prepares for this aggression. This is just a little bit of a distraction, a little bit of a poke, maybe pull some army into the main after trying to do damage out here. He's gonna see the roaches, so maybe that'll delay his attack a little bit. Has to reconsider now, as that is the type of unit that you don't want to be facing with smaller numbers.
Nope, definitely this is a case of just keep everything, preserve everything as much as you possibly can, and then send it on this 8 racks with as much power all at once. It really is kind of, it's one big push, but it's also that first big attack will define so much of how this big attack will then go. So let's see, as we have a few Marines going to unload, we'll see a Ling going down. We start to move out in towards the center. There's a couple of medevacs building as well. I wonder what the point is where he pulls the trigger. Maybe just +1 armor finishing?
For who? For Serral?
No, for Gabe.
For Big Gabe?
Yeah.
I mean, he has to pull the trigger as soon as he gets a scan and realizes that ultras are going to be on the way soon, I think, because that is going to be a nasty timer for him. So I think now is the time for him. He has a lot, and the hive is on the way. So this is probably the best opportunity that Big Gabe is going to have to do some damage before Serral can get fully set up here. And let's see if he's going to be able to. Very open area of the map right now. So Big Gabe already with pre-splits. The Banelings don't yet have speed, and that's going to be revealed to Big Gabe. However, the tanks both siege in range of Biles, which means 3 Biles are going to take care of both of those tanks. Not a good start for the German. However, a lot of Overlords here free for the pickings perhaps. Baneling speed has finished, so Big Gabe has to be pretty careful. There is a lot of runway in the back, but a lot of creep as well, so he has to be very careful. And this army already looks pretty flimsy with the tanks going down, and it looks like Serral has staved off this aggression just easy peasy.
Yep, absolutely just going to be able to keep on pushing through this. Got rid of the tanks, got rid of the scary part of it, and really just undid that army supply lead that Gabe had. And now HeRoMaRinE just goes back to the drone board. He gets a couple libs, another tank. No SCVs, there's no future to this. Apparently he's going to break into the bottom side of the map, but I can't imagine this for anything more than rotating elsewhere, because I just don't think you really benefit from kind of trying to take another base or anything. I mean, you're not set up to, you don't even have the armories to start 2-2 upgrades. The problem is that first attack really was your best chance at opening the advantage, and now that advantage can't be opened, well, this is looking pretty terrible.
Pretty terrible indeed, and Serral knows it as well. He's not even transitioning into the Ultras. He is getting the upgrade, so eventually that'll very likely be the transition, but at the moment he realizes that Big Gabe is pretty all-in, so he's just making as many units as he possibly can. He's gonna go out and try to protect his creep. However, with 1 siege tank in the low ground and not knowing how many more could be behind it, he's gonna retreat for the time being. So a little bit of space at least here for Big Gabe, and the creep spread is not present here in the south, so maybe a small opening. But,
yeah, he can set up, but if Serral is in trouble, he just gives up this base, right? Like, he can still be on 4 bases with the top side, so it doesn't necessarily kind of really fix anything for Gabe. His issues are still abound here. Medevac loads up a few Marines. He's just trying to bait a good fight. Serral clearly feels like he's got enough. He's got Vipers now as well. He can parasitic bomb some of these Medevacs, start working through their numbers. Abductor, Liberator, Blinding Cloud, the tank, anything really works. More Blinding Clouds, and the Banelings are just going to storm on through. Corrosive Files are good, and Serral is all over this HeRoMaRinE army as Gabe gets completely pushed back. As this honestly feels like the moment where you could just see him leave the game, but he's going to fight on for a little while longer.
I don't think so. I think he's gonna leave the game really soon here.
I thought he would, but there we go. I was with you, Cats. I was like, I really felt like that was the moment, but he like stayed in. And I was like, well, if you stay in now,
a few seconds too long. Yeah.
If he stays in now, it's like, well, maybe you just wait for like the few extra moments as well, right? But yeah, okay. He waited like 10 extra seconds. Serral just kind of dominating, man. I mean, he figured out that HeRoMaRinE was being very eco-heavy. I mean, I guess in the end, just did everything correctly. Like, he had units at the right time. He had Banelin speed ready when he needed it for the biggest push of all. The earlier pushes never really came, so the roaches maybe felt a bit wasted, but there was a reason to have those initially too. And Gabe just, I mean, super passive, sits back, really just puts everything on that one attack, and if Serral deals with it, then that's pretty much the game decided right then and there.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that many Roach Ravager as well, like, it's so difficult to breach with Marines and Bio in general, especially when Banelings are involved as well. So it kind of sucks for Big Gabe that he chose such a style that takes the gases so late that he couldn't get very many tanks for his attack. And then 2 of his, 3 tanks get sniped by the same Biles. So he just loses so much momentum. If he could have at least retained the tanks in that first attack and you know, like, continue to add tanks time and time again, then it can get a little bit more difficult for the Roaches. But as it stands, there was just no real counter to those. So
yeah, no, very, very true. As the countdown into hard lead for map number 2. Well, we kind of asked the question, right? What's Gabe going to come in prepared with on this one? It was Mega Greed, Mega Economy.
It was cool.
Probably something very different, I imagine, for this second game on hard lead. So let's see if his build is going to bring us a little bit of hype here. As the countdown is done, and we are into our second map. Leading 1-0 in the top left corner is going to be the blue Zerg player. This is going to be from Basilisk, Serral.
And lend this man your energy in the bottom right-hand side. It is HeRoMaRinE for Mousesports. I only won 2 ones today. What did you? Can we make it happen?
2 ones.
Can we arrange it? 2-1 only. No 2 zeros.
Not a single one. That's a
not
hard,
a single 2-0.
That's a difficult.
That's a hard lead. That's a hard lead. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. It's possible. It's possible. Yeah. You don't believe in Big Gabe, is what you're saying?
After that first game, no, actually. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, like, I thought the build had potential, but then like, it really had potential. He was up like 20-30 army supply when he attacked, and then Serral just goes, just like backslaps him away, man. It's just like, well, yeah.
It's tough, right? Because yeah, the build does have potential, but Serral had the perfect answer. Like that Roach Ravager decision was just so great from him, I think. And you know, if you're going up against Ling Bane or against like Ling Bane Hydra or Muta or something that's not Roaches and Ravagers, then all of a sudden like that much bio that can really punch through, and then it's down to, you know, how well you split and stuff like that, and then it's doable. But against that particular style, you need more tanks than just a couple.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, it just felt as though like 3 tanks was never going to achieve enough because their armies were basically maxed, right? So then you want like 5, 6, 7 tanks. But then you can only afford 3 tanks with the way the build works out. It just doesn't have enough. If you got 3 tanks, you got to go sooner and hit harder. Like you say, maybe have just more bio to completely overwhelm. Like, almost feels like, what if you just don't have tanks in that scenario and you just have like extra bio, which sounds ridiculous, but then sometimes that can overwhelm, man. Like, if you've got the Ravagers there to specifically, like, bow down tanks, they don't have as much of a role to play. That extra bit of bio might just bust through the Banelings, and it might just close the gap, so I just felt like it wasn't really... It's almost like that's why you don't see triple CC no gas into an 8-rack a lot of the time, you know? Like, maybe it just doesn't quite line up well enough to be effective.
Well, it's definitely that, and it's the early game is it is a huge risk that he took even to get there, right? Because he could get all in pretty fast there, and it would be very difficult to hold. Your medevacs are not going to be there, your tanks are not going to be there, so yeah, it is a risk at the start, and then towards the area of the game that we saw it, obviously, yeah, you don't want to be going up against Roaches. I agree with you. Instead of tanks having more Marauders, for example, would have been nice, but it's so difficult to skip the tanks just because you have the factory. You need the factory to go into the starport, and you definitely need the medevac, so you know, you just want to have it producing something, and what else is it going to be?
No, I'm with you. Well, the thing is as well, right, if HeRoMaRinE does this build against a bunch of other players, we're probably like, wow, so crisp, such a cool timing, you know. It's just Serral is so good at dissecting these builds. He's had to play against people who play things differently against him all his career because he's the best.
Yeah.
And he's just so good at kind of taking things out, maybe a little bit less than ideal, and just saying, right, well, that's how I punish that. And in this case, he did it brilliantly.
He really did do it brilliantly, and yeah, that is kind of the thing, right? Like, he's seen it all basically, and I personally haven't seen much of that at all, what HeRoMaRinE was trying. So maybe he was hoping, you know, you won't react perfectly. Maybe he tried it in practice. His opponents weren't, you know, reacting with perfect roach timings and just droning up until they needed roaches. Because also, don't forget, right? Like, Serral had the perfect read and didn't make units for so very long, and then had that link perimeter, making sure that it's not like a combat shield timings before medevacs or a stim combat shield timing or anything like that. So he was just fully prepared the entire game, and yeah, it looked like it.
This game obviously very different, as we do see third CC a game, but with a lot more gas and obviously a lot more tech, as we see reacted Hellions, Cloaked Banshees, very akin to the build we saw from Spirit in a couple of games earlier on today. So just gets set up, gets that Hellion Banshee on the road. One of the most standard TVZ things you can do over the past 5 years, basically just Hellion Banshee. It's safe, it's secure, it gives you a good economy. It lets you kind of play from there, so we'll see Gabe playing a bit more of a straight-up style to begin with, but obviously still maybe has some twists and turns for us further in this game.
Yeah, let's hope so. And someone in the chat, for example, was saying, like, would two-factor be better? And maybe to some degree, but then, you know, you run into Muta, and then we're telling the same story but backwards, right? And we're like, yeah, you can't do this against Muta. Like, it's gonna be, you know, too many tanks, not enough bio, and once the banning hits. So it's very difficult on the Terran side, I think, because you're so constrained, because you can't have a good mix without over-investing basically in the mid stage, because your early stage is so dictated by the fact that you took no gases that you can't have a healthy mix without just kind of leaning heavily in one direction or the other at some point.
I mean, second factory for a push like that, when do you afford the second factory? Then you're cutting medevacs, which is one of the more important things to keep as well. If you want the second factory up at any amount of time to get like more than one tank out of it for the push, so it's just it's just rough. As you see, 4 more barracks right now. It's going to be 5 racks at the moment from Gabe as he gets his third set up. And Serral just playing very standard with Ling Bane. Just Baneling speed first, then going to go the Evo Chamber route. So a very safe way of playing, just going Baneling speed first, a little bit safer overall, then trying to get the upgrades and then teching up otherwise. So yeah, just going to play it nice and standard from the Zerg point of view. As the Banshees come in, they get deflected, and the main thing you'll notice when Serral plays these EVTs, Reyno as well, they're so good defensively early on. They will absolutely minimize any potential damage. Hellions aren't going to find a stray drone, Banshees aren't going to get to many edges of mineral lines, and that's what makes the difference. If the Terran can't get anything done early, and the Zerg is just that robust, then the Zerg is extremely robust for the rest of the game, because they're just working off those few extra drones that the Terran is used to picking off.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to do what they do as well, right? Because you gotta be really cognizant of where the Banshees are. Obviously, if you have the creep spread that this type of player has, then it's a little bit easier on that front. But also, like, to have your queens in 2 separate groups, and those groups be perfectly split with 3 in the main and 5 in the natural, or at least mirroring the Banshees, and then having the time and presence to go back and injecting. It's not easy to do. They make it look easy, but it's rather impressive.
Lions get there, pulling a little bit of creep spread initially. He's going to knock a couple of those down straight away. Overlord chilling out overhead. We do have Marines in the tank. Make their way over the right-hand side of the map. Also is just moving on across. And just going to find themselves straight across to that upper right, as we do have the Burrow and the Overlord speed all coming by. The Banelings on the way up. So yeah, we start a push from HeRoMaRinE, as Serral will be soon very ready to kind of play in all sorts of ways. Like, the Burrow is very fun. The Overlord speed could be fun. Lots of potential for him.
Yeah, lovely position on the tank. Unfortunately, it's just the 1. But yeah, that already gets a free shot at least. And now the Marines are going to try to bait some Ling Bane into them so that the tank can get some more freebies. It's nothing that he's, you know, HeRoMaRiNE's not looking to do too much damage here other than just tax Serral some units. And so far, so good. The Hellions almost find a clump of Banelings, but Serral showing that he has some Terran-like skills as well, splitting them perfectly. And now the Lings with the full surround. The Hellions have nowhere to go. The Marines on the other side are stuck fighting Queens, and now the Banelings aid in that process as they realize that they're not needed on the right. And things are falling apart for Big Gabriel yet again.
It's an okay trade though, right? Like, resources-wise, it was decent for him. He only lost 1 tank of tech. Losing the Hellions sucks, but I guess they're not going to be as major a part of the bigger pushes. Gabe is heading in towards his 4th command center this time, and also then still adding on 3 more racks.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and he is kind of keeping up in supply, right? So he's not out of it for sure. Loses a little bit of wind in that attack, and Serral kind of like does what he needed to do. But yeah, with a 4th on the way and whatnot, HeRoMaRinE far from out of the game.
Infestation Pit finishes from Serral on the right side as well. It's just going to get that going. Marines will make their way around. Just going to stem on forward to get towards the Queen here. So we are going to find ourselves a couple of shots, a couple of Banelings, Queen. Again, damage being done, trying to drop on the left side. Serral, just one Queen poking there. It's just going to slowly bring that medevac HP down, which makes it more dangerous to stick around on the map, of course.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, because HeRoMaRinE definitely had to look at the other side to make sure that, you know, these 2 medevacs would evacuate, and that makes it so that Serral can start poking at the one medevac. If those medevacs were full HP, then you can easily dive onto that Queen at low risk, but by the time you start unloading, one of those medevacs is going to be pretty low, and if Serral has more units around, then that drop is doomed. So I can't blame HeRoMaRinE for reassessing the situation on the left, but all a byproduct of the multitasking on the right, as these Marines are not going to get multitasked, and a few of them are going to fall.
Yeah, Banshee going to keep on firing. The Ling Bane still taking some shots, and we do have the units of Serral again pushed back around the right side. Ling Bane goes back up the left as well. Just going to be seeing all that pulling back around. 2-2 upgrades coming out on both sides, and Serral just going to stay split, make sure that any split attack of HeRoMaRinE is going to be easily dealt with. He's about to hit Hive Tech Cats, so he's going to have access to Adrenal. He's going to really be able to power up the Ling Bane, step into Ultras if he wants to as well, really get to those quickly. Kind of diving off creep here. I don't love so much, but also far from being the end of the world.
Yeah, especially around the corner, it's going to be difficult to turn without taking extra damage from those ranged units. On this side, however, Serral does find a little bit of damage. Gonna force a scan as well from HeRoMaRinE. The Lynx have nowhere to go. They'll just verbal again.
Yeah.
I love it. They're not going to make it.
Maybe it's less painful if you die in the ground, Cats. Something like that.
Yeah, no one gotta... Yeah. Less work as well for your people, right? They don't have to bury you.
So considerate, these Zerglings.
Yeah, seriously.
The most brutal way possible is Vipers and Ultra Cavern is on the way, so we are seeing ourselves the Hive Tech really kicking off from Serral. I think just everything we expected to be. HeRoMaRiNE's just on up 3 more commands, and this Ghost Academy's popping for him. He is just saying, yeah, I'm going to sit here and let you attack into me a whole bunch, and I'm just going to kind of do what Spirit did in that previous series and just sit back, let you attack, and I'm going to see if you can, I can just out-efficiency you playing the defensive style.
Yeah, he's done a wonderful job as well of defending kind of these high grounds, so the creep spread hasn't gone up the ramps, which is not easy to do on this map, right? Because there's this little high grounds that creep doesn't have perfect vision on, so it takes an extra creep tumor or some air vision from the side of Serral, and HeRoMaRinE has done a wonderful job of playing this macro game so far. So let's see if he can continue to do that, as this pocket is tasked with denying the base that Serral now wants to take, but Serral is escorting the drone with a sizable enough army to displace it.
And he's going to make sure that that base goes down. If he wants it, he's going to get it. As HeRoMaRinE still has obviously plenty of medevacs and units inside of them to set up and try and drop around with. You have Ling Bane Viper moving around the left side, getting into the center. Some creep spread continues forward. The CC wants to land on that base. As it scans, it will take down that Ling. We will see a Blinding Cloud to start us off here. There's a Widow Miner 2 mixed in. How big is that going to be? It's finally... Okay, actually goes down. Never found a target to lock onto long enough. Banes are going to find a mineral line here, and that is painful because the last thing you want to be having happen is HeRoMaRinE is to really lose economy during these attacks, because that's what the Zerg feeds off of. Every time you deny economy as the Zerg, you rebuild and go again. The Terran has had to replace economy and focus on that instead of just replenishing the units they lost in the fight instead.
Yeah, absolutely. The Blinding Clouds as well are wonderful because he doesn't, he just clips the tank with the Blinding Cloud. Personally, when I see a tank, I just put the Blinding Cloud on top of it, but this way, I mean, there's more surface area that you deny potentially for Marines and whatnot in the front, and you also expose your Viper less. So it's all the little details that make Serral Serral, and yeah, he's displaying it in full force here, but HeRoMaRinE is no slouch, already up to 5 base, and with these high grounds, it's not going to be super easy to breach for Serral. Also, Widow Mines I really like the addition of, in comparison to Spirits late game, for example. I think they would have come in handy against the type of game that Raynor is playing, and Serral is playing a similar game as far as the Ling Bane numbers.
Yep. Absolutely, as we do see a few Vipers overhead. Ling Bane Ultra.
Well, here we go.
Gonna move through. We're gonna commit onto this base again. Widow Mines finally finding some targets. Gets a lot of Banelings. Yes, the base falls, but is it okay enough for HeRoMaRinE? I feel like he's lacking supply caps. There's so many Ultras still around. There's a lot of Ling Bane still leading forward, and there's just nothing to really stop this immediately. And I kind of feel like Serral might just stream across the map and never end this attack.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the army was there. I mean, it's clearly gone. It died at some point or something, but it definitely wasn't in position to deal with this, and the Ultras are having free reign right now. The Widow Mines, I mean, they found one good connection, but that was 4 or 5 Widow Mines that went off in that search. The Ultras will finally fall, but Serral has a lot of links, and now Marauders are not going to be able to contribute as much. This one lone Widow Mine probably is dying to burrow and kill a bunch of units, and it finally will, and it will force Serral to retreat finally, but not after doing... I mean, that was probably game-ending damage. If we look at the map now, it's dire. Like just 2 minutes ago, I felt like HeRoMaRinE had a decent shot at prolonging and maybe winning this game in the late game, but now looking near impossible.
Yep, 12 SCVs going down, and again, just push back. Okay, we still got 4 bases, but Serral is instantly rebuilt. HeRoMaRinE is just, I think he's just rebuilding off of 2 low army supplies, so that by the time Serral goes again, his army's just not even going to begin to make a hold. I think that's going to be the issue as the Vipers come across. Lingbane Ultra getting ready. Sanchi is going to start firing. On we go. Couple Widow Mine shots going in as the Lings are just going to dive through. I mean, this army is just not good enough. Okay, maybe a mine or 2 can save the day, but even then, Cats, we are losing units. We are losing probably some SCVs here as well. And you can see HeRoMaRiNE's units trying to come out of the main base are not going to have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely not. And the Liberators are accounted for as well in the next wave. There's Vipers out. They have been around already, so very difficult with for HeRoMaRiNE to stabilize. He needs Ghosts and PFs and a lot more units and 80 extra supply to stave off the aggression. This is just not going to happen, so it looks very dire. That mine hit, I mean, I really wanted to jump for it. It was one of the bigger mine hits that I've seen, but it's not enough.
Nope. It is, it's not enough. He needed like 3 of those to like completely shut down a wave without taking any further damage. And then maybe you restabilize. You're still gonna have a rough time, but at least then maybe you can start to hold off a wave here and a wave there. Maybe you retake a base. In this case, Serral is again maxed out, ready to go against a 140 supply HeRoMaRiNE who, I mean, there's so many Banelings this time around as well. You mentioned the Vipers, they are available, so they can come through. They're gonna Parasite Bomb the Liberators. That works out. Baneling's just gonna crush through the Planetary on the left-hand side, and again, it's kind of just a question of when does HeRoMaRiNE want to say GG, and that's going to be right now. And Serral takes 2-0.